The village lay forgotten, swallowed by the forest. Once it was a place of laughter and life where children played and elders shared stories by the fire. But now, it was a ghost of its former self, a relic of a time long past. Trees, gnarled and ancient, clawed at the crumbling stone. Their roots had long since broken through the foundations of homes, reclaiming the land. The forest had a way of taking back what was once its own, slowly, inexorably. Sun struggled to pierce the dense canopy, casting the village in perpetual twilight. Silence hung heavy. The air was thick with the scent of moss and decay, a reminder of the relentless passage of time. Broken only by the rustle of leaves and the scuttling of unseen things. Creatures of the forest had made this place their home, moving silently through the shadows, their presence felt but rarely seen. A place lost to time, haunted by whispers of the past. No paths led here. The forest had grown so dense that any trace of the old roads had vanished, leaving the village isolated, a world unto itself. No signs pointed the way. It was as if the village had been erased from memory, existing only in the minds of those who once lived there, and in the stories passed down through generations. The village existed solely in hushed whispers and faded maps. Maps that were now brittle with age, their ink fading, just like the memories of the village itself. A place of shadows and secrets, best left undisturbed. The forest seemed to guard its secrets jealously, wrapping the village in a shroud of mystery and foreboding, yet something drew the curious, the adventurous, the foolish. They came in search of answers, of hidden treasures, or simply to satisfy their curiosity. But the forest did not give up its secrets easily. Drawn to the mystery that clung to the forgotten village like morning mist, drawn to their doom. For those who entered rarely returned, and those who did were forever changed, haunted by what they had seen and heard in the shadows of the forest. Mark, a journalist with a thirst for the unknown, had heard the stories. Legends whispered around flickering campfires and in hushed tones. Tales of a village lost to a terrible curse. A place where the veil between worlds thinned, where the living dared not tread. His office, cluttered with maps and half-written articles, buzzed with the city's energy. But Mark craved something more, something real, something beyond the mundane headlines and the fabricated stories. He yearned for the truth, however dark and dangerous it might be. The forgotten village, shrouded in its eerie legend, called to him. The journey was long. Days bled into nights as Mark ventured deeper into the wilderness. He followed faded maps and local rumors. Each step took him further from civilization and deeper into the embrace of the ancient forest. Finally, the trees parted. The village stood before him, desolate and decaying. Silence pressed in, heavy and absolute. Mark felt a shiver crawl down his spine. He had expected fear. He hadn't expected the profound sadness that emanated from the very stones. The air grew cold as Mark stepped into the village square. The chill was immediate, seeping through his clothes and into his bones. He shivered, pulling his coat tighter around him, but it did little to ward off the eerie sensation that had settled over him. Overgrown with weeds, it was once a place of life and laughter. Children would play here, their joyous cries echoing through the air. Market stalls bustled with activity, and the scent of fresh bread and flowers filled the atmosphere. Now, it was a shadow of its former self, a haunting reminder of what once was. Now, only crumbling stone and the ghosts of memories remained. The buildings, once sturdy and full of life, were now mere skeletons, their windows shattered and doors hanging off their hinges. The village seemed to sigh with the weight of its history, each stone whispering tales of the past. He swore he could hear the faint echo of children's laughter, quickly swallowed by the oppressive silence. It was as if the village itself was trying to communicate, to share its sorrow and loss. Then he saw her. A woman in a white dress, shimmering like mist in the fading light. She seemed almost ethereal, as if she was a part of the fog that clung to the village. Her presence was both beautiful and terrifying, a stark contrast to the decay around her. She stood at the edge of his vision, her face obscured by shadows. Mark tried to focus to see her more clearly, but the shadows seemed to shift and move, keeping her features hidden. It was as if the village itself was protecting her, keeping her secrets safe. Mark blinked, and she was gone. Had she been real? Or was she just a figment of his imagination, a trick played by the eerie atmosphere of the village? He couldn't be sure, but the encounter left him feeling unsettled, or a trick of the fading light. The sun was setting, casting long shadows that danced and flickered, creating illusions that played with his mind. The village seemed to come alive in the twilight, its secrets hidden in the growing darkness. A chill ran down his spine, whispering of an unsettling truth. He was not alone. The village, with its crumbling stones and overgrown weeds, held more than just memories. It held spirits, echoes of the past that refused to be forgotten. Mark knew he had to leave, but the village had a hold on him, a grip that was hard to break. He explored the abandoned houses, each one a testament to the lives lived and lost. Furniture rotted, covered in dust and cobwebs. Personal belongings lay scattered, frozen in time. A child's doll with a cracked porcelain face stared up at him, its one remaining eye seeming to follow his every move. The silence was broken by whispers. Soft and indistinct, they seemed to emanate from the very walls. Whispers of sorrow, of loss, of anger. Mark felt a presence beside him, cold and unseen. He spun around, heart pounding, but found nothing, only the oppressive silence and the overwhelming sense of dread. Drawn by an unseen force, Mark found himself before the largest house in the village. It stood at the end of the square, its windows like vacant eyes staring out at the world. Even the forest seemed to shy away from this place, as if even nature itself feared to tread here. He pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and the smell of decay. Cobwebs hung from every corner, and the only light came from the slivers of sun that pierced the boarded-up windows. He felt a presence here, stronger than before, watching him, waiting. The ghostly woman appeared again, her form clearer this time. She seemed to glide effortlessly through the mist, her presence both mesmerizing and terrifying. The air around her grew colder, and the village seemed to hold its breath, as if acknowledging her ethereal existence. Her face, etched with sorrow and anger, was hauntingly beautiful. Her eyes, deep pools of sadness, told a story of pain and betrayal. Every wrinkle, every line on her face seemed to carry the weight of centuries of suffering. It was a face that had seen too much, endured too much. She spoke, her voice like the wind chimes, cold and ethereal. Each word she uttered seemed to hang in the air, echoing through the empty streets of the village. Her voice was a melody of sorrow, a haunting tune that resonated with the very soul of the listener. She told him of the curse, of betrayal and greed, of love turned sour and friendships broken. She spoke of promises made and promises broken, of trust shattered and hearts turned to stone. Her tale was one of darkness, a darkness that consumed not just the village but the very souls of its inhabitants. Of a darkness that consumed the village, spreading like a plague, infecting every corner, every home. It was a darkness that brought with it despair and hopelessness, leaving the village in a perpetual state of twilight. The sun never seemed to shine here, and the nights were long and cold, leaving only silence and despair in its wake. The once vibrant village was now a ghost town, its streets empty, its homes abandoned. The laughter of children, the chatter of neighbors, all silenced by the curse. The village was a shadow of its former self, a place where hope had long since died. Mark listened, his fear giving way to a profound sadness. He could feel the weight of the ghostly woman's words, the depth of her sorrow. He realized that the curse was not just a story, but a living, breathing entity that had taken hold of the village and its people. He understood now the weight of sorrow that permeated this place. It was a sorrow that was palpable, that hung in the air like a thick fog. It was a sorrow that had seeped into the very ground, into the walls of the homes, into the hearts of the villagers. The villagers weren't evil, just victims of a tragedy that had poisoned their souls and bound them to this forsaken place. They were trapped, unable to move on, their spirits tethered to the village by the curse. They were not malevolent, but lost, searching for a way to break free. He had to help them find peace. He knew that breaking the curse would not be easy, but he was determined to try. He felt a sense of responsibility, a need to right the wrongs of the past. He would do whatever it took to bring light back to the village, to free the villagers from their eternal torment. He tried to leave, to escape the village and the sorrow that clung to it like a shroud. But the path he had taken was gone. The forest had closed ranks, the trees twisting into grotesque shapes, barring his escape. He was trapped. The ghostly woman stood before him, her expression a mixture of sadness and grim satisfaction. He had been warned, she said, her voice echoing in the stillness. The village consumed all who dared to disturb its slumber. Just like Mark, it would consume him too. The curse would claim another victim. The forgotten village remained, lost in the embrace of the ancient forest, shrouded in silence and sorrow. The trees stood guard, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to claim the unwary. The curse lived on. Mark's disappearance remained a mystery. Another tale to be whispered around campfires, another soul claimed by the village's haunting embrace. The forgotten village stood silent, a testament to the darkness that lay hidden beneath the surface of the world, waiting for its next victim.